When Dr. Alina walked into the luxury hospital suite, she never expected him to be there. The boy she'd once loved, now the ruthless mafia boss whose name alone made people tremble. Years had changed everything, except the look in his eyes when they met hers. But fate wasn't done playing cruel games. The woman lying on that hospital bed, his dying mother, would soon force both of them to face the past they tried to bury. And when his world of violence collided with her world of healing, one truth became clear. First loves never really die. They just return with scars. The hospital corridors felt colder than usual that night, echoing only with the soft hum of machines and the rhythmic click of Dr. Alina Reyes's shoes. She tightened her grip on the clipboard in her hands, her stomach twisting with unease. The board had called her in personally for this case, a private patient, high security, no questions asked. It was unusual even for someone as seasoned as her, and the tension in the air was thick enough to choke on. As she neared the end of the hall, two tall men in black suits stood like statues by a single door, their expressions blank, their presence radiating danger. Alina's pulse quickened. These weren't bodyguards. She'd seen eyes like that before, sharp, calculating, and cold. Mafia. She swallowed hard as one of them scanned her ID badge and gave a curt nod. "You can go in, doctor." Her heart thudded as she pushed open the door. The room was dimly lit. Curtains drawn against the night, the air heavy with the scent of lilies and disinfectant. Machines beeped softly beside the hospital bed where an older woman lay motionless, her skin pale and paper-thin. Alina's expression softened immediately. The woman's breathing was shallow, her chest rising and falling with visible effort. A quiet sadness hung over the room, the kind that spoke of a long battle with illness, and of someone dearly loved. Then she felt it, that unshakable awareness that someone was watching her. Her eyes lifted from the patient to the corner of the room, and her entire body froze. Standing by the window, backlit by the glow of the city lights, was a man in a black suit. Broad shoulders, expensive watch, an aura of quiet authority. For a moment she thought she must be imagining it, but then he turned, and her heart stopped. "Mateo?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. He looked older, harder, a man carved from power and shadows. The playful boy who once held her hand behind the school gym at 16 was gone, replaced by someone the world now whispered about in fear. The name Matteo De Luca had become legend, the mafia boss who ruled the city's underworld with an iron hand. And yet, when his eyes met hers, something flickered. Recognition, regret, pain. "Alina," he said softly, his voice deeper now, rougher. "You're the doctor they sent." She blinked, stunned. I didn't know it was your mother." He stepped closer, his gaze never leaving her face. "You shouldn't be here," he murmured, though the words lacked conviction. "I'm here because she needs me," Alina said, her voice trembling slightly. "If I walk away now, she won't make it through the night." For a long moment, they just stood there, the rain beginning to fall outside, tapping gently against the glass. The silence between them was heavy with everything left unsaid. The heartbreak, the years apart, the choices that had turned him into this. Finally, Mateo exhaled, his tone softer than she expected. "Then save her, Alina," he said quietly. "Save my mother, and I'll owe you more than anyone ever has." Her eyes met his, and for the briefest second she saw the boy he once was, the boy who had promised her forever. But when she blinked, he was gone, replaced once more by the man the world feared, and she realized, with a sharp ache in her chest, that no amount of time or distance could truly erase the first love that had broken her heart. The room was quiet, except for the soft rhythm of the heart monitor and the faint tapping of rain against the window. Alina tried to steady her trembling hands as she adjusted the woman's IV line. Mateo stood behind her, silent, his presence both suffocating and magnetic. She could feel his gaze on her with every movement she made. Memories of another time flickered in her mind. Laughter under a summer sky, the warmth of his hand in hers, the way he used to look at her like she was his whole world. Now, That same gaze held something darker. A man haunted by years and sins she couldn't yet understand. "Her condition is serious," Alina said quietly, breaking the silence. "Her body's weak and her lungs are failing. If she doesn't respond to the new treatment, we may need to transfer her to the ICU." She didn't look at him as she spoke. It was easier that way. Her voice was steady, professional, but her heart was beating far too fast. Mateo didn't answer immediately. Instead, he moved closer, the sound of his footsteps slow and deliberate. "Do whatever it takes," he said finally, his tone calm but commanding. "Money isn't a problem." Alina turned to face him. "It's not about money," she said softly, her eyes meeting his for the first time since she'd walked in. "It's about time. She doesn't have much of it left." Something shifted in his expression, a fleeting crack in his iron composure. "She's all I have left," he murmured, almost to himself. "You save people, don't you, Alina? Save her, too." The use of her name, the way it rolled off his tongue, gentle but heavy with history, sent a strange ache through her chest. She wanted to tell him that some things couldn't be saved, that not even doctors could fight fate. But the words died in her throat when she saw the look in his eyes. Raw, desperate, human. She took a breath and nodded. "I'll do my best." Hours passed. The rain outside turned into a steady downpour. Alina worked tirelessly, adjusting the woman's oxygen levels, monitoring her vitals, whispering soft reassurances even though she wasn't sure the patient could hear her. Mateo never left the room. He stood by the window, his phone ringing occasionally, hushed voices, coded words, the unmistakable tone of danger. Yet each time his eyes returned to his mother's fragile form, and for a brief moment he was just a son. Not a mafia boss, not a legend. Just a man terrified of losing the woman who had once called him her boy. Near dawn, Alina finally sank into the chair beside the bed. Exhaustion pulled at her, but she stayed alert, watching the gentle rise and fall of her patient's chest. Mateo walked over quietly, his steps softer now. "Thank you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Alina looked up at him, her eyes tired but steady. "Don't thank me yet," she replied. "We're not out of danger." For a moment, they just looked at each other, and in that fragile silence, the past hung between them like a ghost. Mateo's jaw tightened, as if holding back words he couldn't afford to say. Then he turned away, his silhouette framed against the pale light of morning. As he reached for the door, Alina spoke without thinking. "Why, Mateo?" she asked softly. "Why this life? You could have been anything." He paused but didn't turn. "Some of us don't get to choose, Alina," he said quietly. "We just survive the choices others made for us." And with that, he walked out, leaving behind the faint scent of rain and smoke, and a heart she thought had long since forgotten how to ache.